ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. So this class is meeting after a gap, right? Last Sunday we didn't have a class. Okay. Any questions on or clarifications before we go ahead? I think we are supposed to do the 14th verse today in the last 10th sloka. Correct? Tenth sloka, 14th verse of the commentary. Huh? 14th we did, yeah. 15th we have to start. Okay. Good. So any questions or clarifications, or it's all fine? Okay. Chalo. Then let us start. Remember the whole Prasanga Vashat, he is handling the various siddhis you can get from yoga. See, one thing, the difference between sometimes what I find between ancient writers, classical writers, even in English language, and modern writers. Modern writers will stick to the topic, and if they mention something, they'll just mention it and go ahead with the main topic. I'm talking about serious writers, okay? Not people who are writing things that have no much great thing to, nothing great to offer. But if you look at the ancient writers, if they touched upon another topic as part of the main topic, they were very thorough and they went through the whole thing. There was no intellectual slackness in that, They went through it. They said, let us deal with this also thoroughly. Like how you find here in this book. There's a topic and he is dealing through that very thoroughly he is going through. Yoga is not the main thing. Vedanta is the main thing. But since he touched upon yoga as a sadhana, there is no need, actually speaking, to mention all the siddhis and everything. But since it is there, he thoroughly examines it. And I think this was one of the hallmark when people had a leisure, more than external leisure and inner leisure. We sometimes think people of older generations had a lot of time on their hands. That's not strictly true. Yeah, they didn't have the distraction of TV, social media and things like that. That much is true. But in the lockdown, all of you know how much time the daily chores take. Sweeping, swabbing, cooking, etc. And remember, in those days, they had to chop firewood, collect water, etc., store water. So the chores were more, not less. Along with that, they had their main jobs also, main function, whether it was farming or a trade or a warrior. So even though they were not battles every day, the more you sweat in training, the less you will bleed in battle. Therefore, every day they trained. That took hours. So it is not that they necessarily had more time or more leisure with respect to the external world. But they all had an inner leisure, because of which, when they took up a topic, they could thoroughly deal with it. They were not in a hurry to finish You're not in a hurry to finish. And that's an important quality, okay, to have. Why are you in such a big hurry to finish? Unless the job requires that hurry, that's a different thing. Okay? If it requires a deadline and finishing, okay, that's a different thing. But if you command that inner leisure, which in a way, yoga, including karma yoga and all that, japa dhyanam also, is about developing this inner leisure, so that 1 minute is a long time. One minute, actually speaking, is a long time. You can walk 120 paces, take 120 steps in 1 minute. Run 300 feet in 1 minute or more. So 1 minute is a long time. If you have that inner leisure, okay, then even a few minutes is a long time. If you don't have that inner leisure, 10 minutes, oh, short. So it's a question of having that inner leisure. Then you can be thorough with a subject. You can be thorough with it. Okay? That's what he's doing here. Yeah? Both. The whole topic of yoga. Yeah. Whole topic of yoga. Yeah, it started with Shiva, but not necessarily Shivagama. Yeah. See, that source is Ishvara, and all yogis, especially after Jaki Vasudev, calls him as Adi Yogi. You know? But when you refer to him as Adi Yogi, you are taking him as a person. That he appeared some 14,000 years ago. Nobody knew from where he came and where he was. May have manifested, after all, is Ishvara. But we are not referring to him merely as a human being who, through a set of practices and disciplines, perfected himself and gained all these powers. That is not how the tradition looks upon him. Modern yogis tend to look upon him like that. Because remember, many people who go into yoga today go to yoga either for health, or if they are more serious about it, as an alternate to religion. They want to be spiritual, not religious. Because this idea of being spiritual, not religious, they don't want to look upon Shiva, Ishvara, as Ishvara. They only want to look upon him as Adi Yogi, as a human being who perfected himself. So that is a little bit against the tradition. There is no word spirituality in Indian writing actually. It's a Western idea, where initially it meant to understand the spirit behind all your religious practices, all your traditional practices. What is the spirit behind that? That meant spirituality. So really speaking, spirituality, even in the way the word was invented, did not divorce religion and spirituality. Spirituality meant going behind the practices and understanding the spirit behind But the modern liberal thinking has separated out religion and spirituality. It's a wrong thing to do. And because of that, many yogis look upon Shiva not as Ishvara but only Adi Yogi, the first teacher of yoga. That he was the first teacher of yoga is accepted by everyone. Okay. But then what is yoga? That is also open to a big discussion, because yoga is so fragmented now. Yoga is so fragmented. Yeah. I don't know whether there are really in-depth yoga teachers who have the whole thing with them, the whole discipline with them. I don't know. I don't know whether they are there. Even the great teachers like B.K.S. Iyengar and all, it's fragmented. It's fragmented. Yeah. They don't really have the big picture. Or even if they have it for themselves, they have not taught the whole. Nor are they presenting that in public. So that is unfortunate. That's unfortunate. In fact, Pujya Swamiji went as far to say yoga is almost a dead science, because so much of it is lost, because nobody has the whole. I would say it has got fragmented, because each person started taking one aspect of it and saying this is yoga. And then they started establishing different traditions of yoga. So there the problem came. And they were imperfect yogis. So they started competing with other schools of yoga and saying they were the most authentic. Yoga is purely non-competitive. What is competitive about yoga? Though I know anything Americans take, they will make it a competition. There are competitions in US about yoga. How fast you can do the asanas, how much you can stretch, how much. That's not yoga. They have done that with a lot of traditional disciplines, unfortunately. To make yoga competitive is the worst thing you can ever do. They did the same thing with martial arts. Martial art was a discipline of combat, either meant for war or meant for your own spiritual growth. Nothing in between. But they made a sport out of it. And nowadays, with the advent of MMA, there are you'll find many YouTube videos on this saying that traditional martial arts don't work. Traditional martial arts are one of the most deadly combat systems in the world. But because they made it into a sport, a lot of things had to be cut off. Then naturally, it won't work in a combat system, because it's a sporting system now. It's a sporting system. Yeah. Where you'll wear some sort of body armor and all and participate. But a hand that can go, an iron fist that can go through wood and brick and things like that, it will not go through your padding. It will go through your padding and crush your ribs and your lungs. But you can't do that. It's a sport. That's only done in battle. So they don't train like that. So they say it doesn't work. Same thing happens to yoga also. It became just a sport. It just became a physical exercise. That's the issue. Anyway, that's a digression. As I said, being thorough even when you digress, so that's why I'm saying all that. Okay, then he says, Swasharira prakashena sarvarthanam prakashanam prakashayamidimam aishwaryam iti kechid prakshate. Then the another siddhi that is there is called, prakashyam. Prakashyam idam aishwaryam iti kechit prachakshate. That the ability to illumine something else, to throw light on something else, is said to be another aishwaryam. What is that? Swasharira prakashena sarvarthanam prakashanam. In the light of your own body, your body is not gross body, mind, okay? Subtle body, sukshma sharira. By that you can see all things. Prakashyam. Even in darkness you can see things. Even blindfolded you can see things. True, it is there. Many of us who have trained in martial arts, blindfolded, okay? You do combat blindfolded. You see the opponent's blow coming in. You actually see it. Where your eyes are blindfolded, your mind sees it. May not see it like how your eyes see it, you will see it as shadow and light. So, if some martial art training can do this, practice of yoga for 50 years can definitely give it to you. Okay. Then another Aishwaryam is talking about. So, ichha matrena lokanam srishti sthiti antakartrita tata suryadanyam niyatutvam ishvatvam abhidhiyate. This is called Ishwaratvam, Ishatvam or Ishwaratvam. What is that? Swaichha matrena, by your own desire, your own sankalpa shakti, lokanam srishti sthiti antah kartrita, the ability to create, sustain and dissolve worlds. Suryadhyanyamiti, okay, and also the sun and the moon, etc., to create and to dissolve. Yeah, it is there, though most of them can produce only some ashes and things like that. Okay, most of them can only produce some ashes or something like that. They can produce. Okay, but Lokanam, the worlds also. Yeah, such yogis existed once upon a time in Satya Yoga, Vishwamitra ityadi. Okay, this is the story of Vishwamitra creating a whole galaxy. And when he created that, the gods came and begged, though the whole nature will go haywire, please stop. And he stopped. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. In the books like that, you will find it. World, I have not seen anybody able to do this. But as I said, thoda ashes you see. Okay. Salokapala sarvepi lokasya svarshatavartinah tadaishwaryam vashitvakyam sulabham shivayoginam. Sulabham shivayoginam. The Shiva yogis. Shiva yogis is yogis, okay? Yeah. Who accept Shiva as Ishvara and the source of all yoga. Vashitvam, the ability to control. What is that? Saloka pala sasvepi. The loka and the lokapala. The kingdom and the one who rules the kingdom. Okay. To bring them sarvashiratvam, to bring them under your control. They will obey you. You tell them, go, do this, they will go and do that. Vashikaranam, etc. It is there in some tantric practices also. Okay. This is not because of a tantric practice, this is because your ability that has developed. This must be the ultimate control freaks, okay? Who want this power are the ultimate control freaks. We all want to control other people, especially kids, husband, etc. Okay, wife also. Okay. But if you want to cover control, you are ultimate control freak only. Okay. But it's a power that comes. Now, you can debate whether these siddhis exist or not. I am sure they do. The Swamiji, do you have all this? No, I don't. Okay. Then the belief system. Maybe. But these are all verifiable beliefs. There are some beliefs which are non-verifiable. That there is a heaven. Non-verifiable belief. Both of us will have to die and go to the same place. Then I can tell you, bola tha na? It is there. Did I not tell you? They are non-verifiable here. Whereas these are verifiable. Because in the practices, they mentioned first step, second step, third step, fourth step, what will happen at each step. All these descriptions are available with variations that happen with various human beings. I have experimented enough to know that it is possible. But to get all these siddhis, are you willing to do 50 years of sadhana? Or maybe lifetimes. You do it for one lifetime, then you die. And because the samskaras are there, nothing that you have gained is lost. You pick it up in the next lifetime and do more, build more, build more, build more. That's why some people progress fast in the practices, some people don't. Takes their own time. So it takes that many years of time and effort. You can do it in 20-30 years. Gaining the siddhis, 20-30 years you can get. Enough to say, yes, you have a certain, you may not be able to create a new world and things like that, but enough. Arima, Garima, etc., all that thing. When you ask somebody to do something, they will do it. You can get 20-30 years. Anyone interested? I can teach some of the practices to you. But to gain these siddhis, are you willing to spend about 8-10 hours every day in the practice? And put up with all the discomfort that you will experience in your body. Believe me, some of those discomforts are problematic. Yeah. Unexpected pain in areas that you never, why is this pain coming up? Something karmic coming up. Why are you getting so irritated and angry? Yeah. So a lot of these things will come up and you will have to learn to handle it. So to be really speaking, to be a yogi like that, you need to have a monastic lifestyle. You need to have a monastic lifestyle. Otherwise, how 10-12 hours a day, who can practice? You can't be earning a living and practicing that. How many hours you can practice? Swamiji, 2 hours I practice. Wow, great. 2 hours you practice. More than that, can anyone do? Along with their jobs and careers and things like that? Family also? You can't. You can't spend that much of time. Okay. And the question is, why are you spending that much of time? That is why our Grand Guru, Puja Swamiji, would go to dismiss them because he didn't want people wasting their time on this. Yeah. Because if you're only spending 2 hours a day, it's very frustrating. You are not going to get it in this lifetime. Because by the time you started your practice, you are 20-year-old. If 10 hours a day takes 25 years, 2 hours a day will take what, 100 years? Where are you going to live that long? That's why Pujya Swamiji used to be dismissive of this. In fact, very often he wouldn't even teach the 10th verse. He wouldn't do that. He'd say, no, don't worry. Forget about it. Because he didn't want for people to be misguided or drawn away from the main path of moksha. Because why did we start all this for? Moksha. And then why did yoga come in? As sadhana to master your mind. So how much mastery do you need? You need to master your own mind. That much you need. You don't need mastery over somebody else. Not done. You respect people's freedom. You don't want to bend somebody else to your will. You are willing to discuss, dialogue, and come to a common agreement. Yes. But you are not going to control somebody else. Unethical. It's unethical. Yeah. To make someone do what they would not normally be willing to do. Even if you are manipulating somebody to do what you want and what they don't want, that is considered unhealthy, unethical, manipulativeness. Then why is it all presented in the yoga? In the Yoga Shastra? It was meant to be used only against the nation's enemies and things like that. Because there is always a sect, this where it can be. Instead of fighting a war, I make that guy go away, not wanting to have a war. There it is okay, there is appropriate. Why? Otherwise I have to kill that guy. Lots of people will die in both heads. No, forget it. So in such cases, a limited use of this would be okay. Otherwise, in human relationship to use things like this would be very unethical. Okay, will be very unethical. Yeah. But Swamiji, I am doing it because it's good for the person. Who are you to decide? Who are you to decide that? What is good for somebody else? Yeah. Who are you to decide that? Freedom of choice is God given. Let nobody take it away. Let nobody take it away. Except, as I said, there is no rule made by God or man that does not have an exception. But using it on your wife or husband, it is not exception. Okay, not exception. That's being a height of control freak. Yeah. You are the king of control freaks. That's not acceptable. Okay. Yeah. That's it, correct. Because they are healthy. One advantage, look at it. Surya Namaskar is a complete exercise form by itself. If you want to do one exercise that will take care of your health, Surya Namaskar is the thing. It has got a muscular component. It has got an aerobic component, both, isn't it? Plus it becomes an upasana, a worship. So at least 3 areas are covered. Nadi Shuddhi will take care of your internal health. And Nadi Shuddhi will also help balance your mind. You are doing it with Anulom Vilom, right? Yeah. Then it will also help you balance your right and left side thinking. Make your thinking more holistic. Because that alternate nostril breathing will give a great balance to your brain function. So in that way, it will indirectly contribute to your balanced thinking also. Yeah, that is not the minimum yoga practice that we would suggest to someone who comes to you for health. That is true. But in an ashram setup, when so much of time is going for learning, etc., morning meditation class, etc., where is the time for anything more? And everyone will go for a small walk, things like that. So these two practices were the minimum necessary. Minimum, not optimum. Minimum necessary. He said that. Correct. Aerobic component, muscle component, worship, balancing your brain. Both हो गया. How long were they doing the practice? Half an hour at least? Half an hour. Minimum. That's the bare minimum. So about what, 20 minutes would go in Surya Namaskar? So, okay. So how many Surya Namaskars would they do? How many Surya Namaskars would they do? Yeah. So Surya Namaskar, those who do, what is an average thing? 12. Okay. Yeah. Correct. You do about, when you're saying 20, left side, right side, both. Yeah. So 20, that is 40, left side, right side, both. And Nadishwara, minimum exercising is done, enough to keep fit. Yeah. Enough to keep fit. Minimum. That your health is there, that because you're studying so much and meditating so much, etc., your health is not compromised. Minimum health is there. Not optimum health. Okay, not optimum. In a course, you don't bother about optimum health. You bother about minimum health. Like when you are living in Rishikesh on Bhiksha, it is survival. Your health meaning you survive well, okay. You are not bothering about balanced diet, nutritious diet. You are living on Bhiksha. What are you talking about? It's survival. So for that, minimal health, this is enough. Minimum requirement. Yeah. Now those who have the time and want to do some more can do some more. Push the practice to 1 hour. Yeah. Okay. So that's why he said that, minimum requirement. When Puja Swami did something, there was a lot to talk yesterday which I didn't talk. Where is the time to say? A lifetime. If I known him for 50 years, I can talk hours and hours on what he was. Anything Puja Swami said or did, had lot of sense behind it. Lot of sense behind it. Yeah. There's always a reason for what he did it. If you understood the reason, you would be at peace. Otherwise, you take him as being dismissive and things like that. Then now Sureshwara himself is talking something on that. Yastu evam brahmano veti tasya devo vashe sthitah kim puna kshamapattihi vyaghra vyala stri purushadayah. He says yastu evam brahmanaha veti. Arthavada verse, okay? Arthavada verse. Don't take it too literal. Evam yaha tu brahmanaha veti. Those who know Brahman. Okay. And of course including contemplation. Know always includes contemplation also. Okay. Brahmavid brahmaeva bhavati. Okay. If you know Brahman, you are Brahman, not become. Okay. Be very clear on that. That's a trap people fall for. Okay. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Translated in every blooming book like that. No. Bhavati, third person singular. The knower of Brahman is Brahman. Yep. And there is a message to me privately saying that You have to have a lot of faith in the person to practice yoga for 50 years. Correct? Correct? But at every step, you do practice for 3 months. You see some of the effect that was promised. So that strengthens your belief. 6 months, 1 year, you keep seeing the effects. You keep verifying the results that were talked about. Siddhis takes time, but there are also immediate results that are talked about. Within 6 months, within 1 year, that these changes will happen in your body. When all that is talked about, then you know, okay, that faith, correct, some Shraddha is necessary. Some Shraddha, some trust is necessary. Because without that it won't work. But since you can, at each stage, verification is possible, that Shraddha is also possible. Why? Because you can trust him. What he has said up to now and for the practices I have done up to now, I am getting this effect. Hey, you do this thing, you will get robust health. Oh, 6 months you did it and you got that health. Yeah, I feel much better, more healthy, energetic than before. Okay. I mean, after all, 6 months, 1 hour every day, what more do you expect than that? You can't expect anything. Okay. Then, you are doing some advanced pranayamas. Okay. Drink a lot of water, otherwise too much of heat is generated. And you find that is true, a lot of heat is being generated, etc. Then you know, okay, you are on track. Okay, be careful now. Things will happen in your mind, in your brain. So learn to be more centered. Do some breathing practices to be centered. And you'll know, sometimes these emotions are coming up. It's all from your subconscious. These emotions, etc. are coming up. Yes, deal with them. So at every stage when you are seeing these things, you can trust the person. I'm saying trust. I'm not saying allow yourself to be exploited. No. Allow yourself, no. Because I have to say this because there are a lot of frauds in all spiritual teachings. In the so-called field of spirituality, so-called. I'm constrained to use a word because that's a popular word. I'm using it only in that sense. Okay? There are a lot of frauds. A very famous modern teacher in the West who faces some 30 cases against him for exploiting his students. Not like that, okay? Trust, you should trust judiciously, wisely. Okay? Yeah. Anyone who takes away your freedom of choice is not someone you can trust. Someone who respects your freedom of choice, this is a simple guy, someone who respects your freedom of choice, you can trust that person. And if he can accept you in spite of you disagreeing with him on certain other issues, not spiritual issues, okay, then what is the point in studying from someone? Okay? You can question, but the question is always to understand. But on other issues you disagree and the person is comfortable with it, then no issues. You can trust that guy. Why? He doesn't want to control you. He allows you to be. He is not interfering in other areas of your life unless you have asked him for some help in some areas. Now the teacher may be concerned as how are you doing? How is your marriage doing? How are your children? That comes out of care. That doesn't come out of any need to control. So that's how you develop the trust. Yeah. Then coming back to the verse, he says, Yasthu evam brahmanaha veti, one who knows Brahman like this, Brahma with Brahma eva bhavati, tasya deva vashe sthita. Says even the devas bow down to him, are under his control. Even the devas are under his control. Now because of your identification with Ishvara, the devas are under Ishvara's control, not your control literally. There is where the Arthavada part comes in. Okay? The devas under your control. Then what the hell? Then what? Kim punaha kshamapatihi. What are you talking about? Local princes and kings, lords and kings and all. What are you talking about that? Vyagraha, tigers, etc. Okay? Vyakulaha, snakes, etc. Stri, Purushadeya, woman, man, etc. Yeah, forget it. When you are Brahman and Ishvara, everything happens under Ishvara as well. Ishvara, the word itself means what? Ishana Shilaha, the one who is overlordship over everything. And you are identified with that Ishvara. So under your control only everything works. Why do you have to go and control one particular thing here or thing there? In other words, your need for control goes. You are happy to allow people to be what they are. Like how an enlightened parent will be comfortable with the child making a mistake. Why? The child has to learn. Won't try to control. Beyond a point, no. Guidance, yes. Not more than that. The need for control is given up. Need for control comes from your sense of lack, your inadequacy. Because you will be happy only if that person obeys you and does this. One of my students gave me a beautiful answer to this. I told a student of mine, hey, your dad will be happy only if he makes you like him. And you know what he replied? Swamiji, he won't be happy even then. Why? Because he is not happy with himself. What a beautiful answer, What a beautiful answer. Hats off to that student of mine. Yeah. Or another student of mine. Her daughter was very keen to marry somebody. So the mother spoke about how ill-advised that coupling is. But the daughter was adamant. So the mother said, okay, I will get the marriage organized. And she organized the marriage. And on the wedding day, I said, hey, you've done a beautiful job. Yes, Swamiji. It's a costly way for her to learn a mistake. This is why I don't give this marriage 1 year. I'll break up before that, I'm sure of that. But my daughter has to go through that experience to learn. I said, did you try to talk to her? Says, I tried, my husband tried. She has a great regard for my grandfather. He tried, but she's so adamant on this, she has to go through that. I said, yeah, probably she has to go through it. And true enough, within 6 months the marriage broke off. But the mother was willing for the child to make that mistake and learn from it. And the child grew up to be a wonderful person. Okay? After that mistake, really, the maturity that came into that kid was amazing. The kid when she got married in the early 20s, but in the few years down the line, the maturity is amazing. Why? Because the mother allowed that. She was not a control freak. How many of the parents here will be able to do something like that? Difficult, no? Difficult or easy? Huh? Very difficult. Yes, I know. Even to be able to say, all right, I don't agree with the marriage, but you want, go ahead, do a court marriage. Even that is difficult for most people. For most people, even that is difficult. But we are forgetting one thing. Everyone comes here. You are a jiva that has come here. When you read Omar Khayyam, he says, your children are not your children. They are the children of humanity. They come through you, but they don't belong to you. They belong to their future. Ah, what fine writing. People go gaga over it. But what happens when it comes to your child? That time do you think they are the children of humanity? Yeah, You come alone, you're going to go alone. Your job is to nurture, structure, educate that kid. Help the kid make great choices. And you can make wise choices only if you have wisdom. And you will get that wisdom only if you have made bad choices in life. Okay. So, wisdom comes with a few bad choices also. So, you need to make a few bad choices in your life. Why do you think I'm so wise? Okay. I made a lot of bad choices. Yeah. But I'm fine. Yeah. So, not a problem. All right. I mean, of course, I'm speaking under the assumption that all of you think I'm wise. Okay. Sometimes I don't feel like that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know him. I know him. He's true. He's completely out of it. He let people be. In fact, he let people be so much that the child will wonder, does my dad really love me? He is like that. I know. There are things. Therefore, you need to learn to strike a balance in that and see. This whole life is about balance. Na? Samatvam yoga muchyate. Let that be your guideline. Having that balance in everything. Yeah. So, therefore, he says, that's why the Arthavada comes here. That, really speaking, it is not that you are gaining the power to control. Ishvara controls everything. And you are in perfect harmony with his will. Your will does not exist separate from Ishvara's will. You have fulfilled the advice given by Krishna to Arjuna. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. Hey, ambidextrous person. Multi-skilled, ambidextrous. Be an instrument in my hands. In Ishvara's hand, be an instrument. Perfect. Not only that, you have gone even more to understand the truth. Ishvaroham iti. Aham brahmasmi iti, you have understood. Aur kya baat hai? What is left after that? Tell me. For desiring what will you want to control somebody? You want to control somebody's behavior because if the person behaves like that, I will be happy, isn't it? But I am already Ananda, irrespective of what the person's behavior is. But Swamiji, that behaving like this would be better? Yeah, of course would be better. Of course would be better. But you're okay with it. You're okay with it. Why? Because you are Ananda. You may like a child or a student to do certain things because you think that will be better for the child, that will be better for the student. That all of us go through that. All of us go through that. Because in our more holistic view, we understand the bigger picture, especially when it comes to a teacher of Vedanta. We understand the big picture so well. Therefore, this type would be better off. Therefore, you can tell. We do tell. Occasionally, we do give an advice also. Occasionally, not regularly. And then let the person be. Why? The person has to become mature, become wise. Therefore, if there is a mistake, is okay, fine. If the person falls down, you are there na, main hu na, to help the person up. Not the problem. Yeah, you are there to help the person if things go wrong. Then what is the issue? And if the person doesn't want your help and wants to do it on their own, that's also fine. Great. Person is working on his or her independence. Very good. Excellent. You can help to get that independence also. Not an issue at all. Not an issue at all. No control freak. Someone asked me, Swamiji, is that how you behaved with Puja Swamiji? Yeah, Though I used to always keep him informed about what's happening in my life. Most of the things. Maybe 90% of the things in my life he knew what is happening. Why? Because I felt he's my guru. He better know. Because if I am going off somewhere, he can correct me. Or he can give me a better perspective of things. It is not that I would go and tell Swamiji I did this, Swamiji I did that, Swamiji what do you think? No, not like that. But the big picture he always had. Because that's a guru-shishya relationship. But independence was always there. Independence was always there. Yeah. That way. Therefore, that's why he says that ananda that you gain, once you discover that ananda, there's no need for control. There's no need for control. Now you may say some gurus are very strict. Some are more the same. Yeah. Because remember, part of a guru's job is not only to teach, is also to help the student grow. So if he, in his background, in his thinking, feels that in this case some strictness is necessary, the person will be. Or in this one, more compassionate, the person will be. So that's a different thing. That's a different thing. Okay? And that will generally come with full-time students more than lay students. A lay student, there is greater elbow room. With a full-time student, there may be a little bit more limits being drawn. Like yesterday, everyone talked about Pujya Swamiji's compassion. Nobody talked about how Pujya Swamiji could be very, very strict. I know a few cases where he has told people, okay, pack up, quit. Swamiji, I'm so sorry. Nothing doing. Just pack up and quit. You're transgressed on limits. I give you 2 hours. Where is he going to go from an ashram setup? That's it. Because that's how this person will grow. It is not harshness. The person requires to be treated like that. Otherwise the person won't grow, won't accept accountability for their behavior. So he could be strict as well. Very strict. I have seen that. Okay, I have seen that. Yeah. First time I saw that, I was surprised. Then he looked at me. And then it clicked. In that look, everything clicked. And I smiled at him and nodded my head. Yeah, I understand. I understand. And he smiled back. Yeah. You understand? What is there to be said after that? If a smile and a nod can communicate, why do you need words? So, that is in terms of control. Okay, I'm just digress a little bit to understand about control also. Okay, then look at one more verse. Sarvatma bhava samrajya nirantara iti chetasam paripaka samadhina kim kim nama nasadhyati. Sarvatma bhava samrajya nirantarita chetasam. The mind that is always there in the kingdom of Sarvatma bhavam says that I am everything. That I, as existent consciousness, is everything that is there. I am the basis for everything. Everything is nothing but a manifestation of what I am. Everything that is there is a manifestation of existent consciousness, which is me. That is Chetasam, Sarvatma Bhava. Samrajyam is the kingdom of that. Okay. Nirantara Chetasam, the mind is always there in that. Meaning, it is not out of sight, out of mind. Paripakva Samadhina. And the mind that can go into Samadhi at any time. If he wants to sit down and go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, no problems. The mind is disciplined enough. He sits, Om. That's it. And when he is opening his eyes and dealing with the word, Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhaya. Wherever the mind goes, the mind is in samadhi because the mind is not away from the truth. Who said you have to close your eyes? Who said you have to close your eyes? Open your eyes. Everything. You don't miss the truth when you see the world of names and forms and people. This is Savikalpa Samadhi. Because you see names and the underlying reality between the whole thing. You see that. Functioning in the world, Savikalpa Samadhi. Sitting quietly, Nirvikalpa. Why? Because the Jnanam Aham Brahmasmi iti. Therefore he says, Kim namana siddhyati. What is there to be achieved for the person? He's saying what cannot be achieved. I am saying what is there to be achieved after this. What siddhi do you want after this? Walk on water? You want to walk on yourself? Is it not good enough that you are walking on earth, which is nothing but a manifestation of what you are? What is it that you want to be achieved? Purnoham. Not Purnoham that you say after eating a bandara. Okay. Purnoham. You are full, complete. Nothing left. अभी क्या सिद्धि चाहिए? If siddhis come, they come. If they don't come, they don't come. If it is there, it is there. I have a siddhi to communicate well, good enough. और क्या चाहिए? What I know, I can help others know. बस हो गया. I don't want to leap over trees and things like that. As long as I can run up my steps without a problem, enough. I run them up, taking 2 steps at a time. Both way. Basic fitness. Basic fitness. Enough. What other siddhi you want? But Swamiji, what about walking on water, etc.? Hey, in my Purva Ashrama, I sailed across the 7 seas. Without any siddhi, I sailed across the 7 seas. Why do you need to walk on water? When I hardly knew 5% of what I know now, I sailed the 7 seas, faced mighty storms, rescue operation. Abhi aur kya siddhi? If I could do that as a normal human being, what siddhi I need to walk on water? Not necessary. Bombay gets flooded, but not that flooded, okay? Are you getting the idea? If you have achieved that Ananda, there is nothing left meant for you to be achieved. You can happily live in the world with all its limitations. No problems. How is life around? Oh, lot of problems. And how are you? No problems. The experiences do not translate into a self-judgment. Why? You know what you really are. You don't have to judge yourself anymore. You don't have to have a concept of yourself anymore because you know you are nothing but Ananda. और क्या बात है? और क्या बात है? Go and have a cup of tea. और क्या? Or sorry, some of you may be hungry enough for lunch. Okay. Good place to stop. We will complete this probably next class. Okay. Next class we will complete. After that, 2 weekends are the camp. Okay. 2 weekends are the camp. The camp is online. I have posted it on the groups. There is no excuse for anyone not to attend the camp. Previously, people would make excuses. We can't be away from home and things like that. This camp is online. enough time in between for your chores and things like that, no excuse. All of you register, okay? I don't want to hear any excuses on this. Soak yourself in Vedanta for 2 weekends. Only 4 hours will go in classes. Four classes will be there. That's all. So about 5 hours will go. First and class will be about 1.5 hours, and the other class, so maybe 6 hours will go. That's it. Out of an 18-hour day, you can sleep for 8 hours, 6 hours, 14 hours. You still have 10 hours for everything else you want to do. So don't say I don't have the time. 2 weekends. We still have to work out the text, etc. I will let people know in the next week about that. Okay. So, yeah. What is it that cannot be achieved? Yeah, figuratively, yeah. Okay, so good place to stop. Thank you all. Om Tat Sat.